I'll be hanging out here. So am I in, or you want me, or did you put me back in the waiting room?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone on YouTube. I am super excited. We were supposed to do this last week, and we began live streaming on Instagram and Facebook. But like I mentioned, we were supposed to do this last week on both the Facebook and YouTube platform, but we couldn't do it when we streamed last week. So this is just a continuation, so then we could actually finally get this live stream on YouTube. I am going to assume that there are, I don't have that many subscribers yet, and that's absolutely what we're doing this for, is to really build, a following and to expand on the messaging of the 8 Billion Project. So with that, what I'd like to do, and it seems so fitting that the best person to actually bring on to introduce would be, of course, my publicist and public relations representative of the 8 Billion Project, which I took her on at the beginning of July. And it was such a blessing for her to have actually come into my life at the time that I needed a publicist, at the time I need to expand this project and mission. And so now what I'd like to do is actually bring her on. We'll talk a little bit about her role with the 8 Million Project, and then the messaging, and then the expansion of this project. And of course, we'll answer questions from you because you're not here. But that's okay, guys. I just want to let you know, live streaming is where I started. Before I bring on the lovely Keri Brantley, I just want to let you guys know, live streaming is where I started. And I started about this time last year. So I'm very used to this. Usually I'm talking to bots, and then sometimes a person is going to enter, and then sometimes there's questions and they throw coins. But this is live streaming, of course, on YouTube. I will go ahead and bring on my publicists and public relations to the 8 Billion Podcast. Please, everyone, welcome the lovely Keri Brantley.
Hello.
Hi. This is take 3.
Yes, right. We're beginning to make a habit of this.
It is. No, I'm super excited because we had been talking about this.
Yeah.
That this was going to be one of the ways that we were going to bring on more guests.
Right. Actually doing it via live stream. Yeah. Versus.
Yes. Yes. We'll get into that though.
Yeah.
In a second. But what I'd like to do is for you to introduce yourself, of course, and tell everyone where you're from and a little bit about Miss Brantley.
A little bit about me. Okay. Well, so what folks probably don't know is we're actually talking across a 3-hour time difference. So I actually live in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I've lived in this state my entire life, but have lived in Indianapolis for about 33 years. Moved here when I was just a baby. Haha, not true. but love Indianapolis and have spent much of my career in the nonprofit sector here in Indy, and have worked both in healthcare, in the arts, in social services. And so really found that I had a knack for building relationships. Most of that time building those relationships was to actually do fundraising for those organizations. So that's kind of where I got my start in both the development world as well as communications. And so fast forward to COVID 2020, right? And I worked for a small performing arts organization called the Cabaret. And unfortunately, like most small nonprofit organizations, and especially performing arts organizations, they had to shut down. And so my department was dissolved. So I was kind of left not knowing what I was going to do. My business name is Keri Ann, etc. And I actually came up with that last year without even a plan for it. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a great name if I'm going to throw a shingle up and do something, because it means that you get Keri Ann and then you get everything that comes with her, all of my relationships, all my past experiences. I used to joke I was a Jacqueline of all trades, master So,
and you also get her as a therapist too.
Oh, right. Accidental therapist. That's right. So accidental therapist. And then we kind of said I'm the accidental publicist because I really did not set out to do this. After being off work for quite some time, I did go back to work for another small nonprofit, but unfortunately it just wasn't a great fit, and for a few reasons. And so I made the difficult decision to just take that leap and say, okay, I'm not staying in this, and I'll see what the universe has next. And so literally it was just by happenstance that I caught, well, it's not really, but
it's
some
not
would say that it
right?
is. That's right.
God's spirit source had different plans for you.
Yes. So I called a very dear friend of mine who I'd not talked to for several months, probably, just to check in. Hadn't talked with him in a while. He and I had done some work together in the past. So I told him what had happened and the fact that I had just kind of walked away from this, job, not knowing what I was going to do. And he just very nonchalantly was like, well, Keri, I need a publicist. I'm like, okay, well, Joshua, I've never been a publicist. Nowhere on my resume does it say Keri Brantley, publicist. And he's like, yeah, but you do the things you do and you have the skill set that you have. And he's like, you've done the work. It's just not been called, publicity or being a publicist. So it took a couple of meetings and him convincing me, and finally over, a glass of champagne, we toasted to my very first client, Joshua Thompson, who's an amazing classical pianist and future guest of the 8 Billion Project.
Yes, he will actually be closing out season 3.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah. I think I have the final lineup.
Perfect. Yay. So that's how this started. It just totally happened with him. And then the next thing I knew, I had a referral from that someone who knew Joshua, and she saw that he was, claiming that I was his publicist on social media and that he was excited. And so she asked to meet with me, and her name is Lady J, and she's one of my clients. And she's who actually then led me to 8 Billion. She gave me a list of podcasts that she wanted to be on or be featured on, and asked me to, work on that. And I, for whatever reason, chose 8 Billion first. I literally just said, okay, we're going to go with this one. And Lisa, I'll let you kind of share that part of the story. So.
Yeah, it was interesting because I had kind of, it's really interesting when I call out to the universe because I actually get everything. And I know I hate saying that, but truly, right. I can think about times in the recent past, I've asked for certain things and they've come, and in most cases, I think that people would say in miraculous or mysterious ways, but there are no mysteries. There are no coincidences. It's truly being so in tune with source that you can ask for it. You don't ask how. It just happens.
You don't give specifics, right? You just say, okay, here's what I want. And,
yes. And for some time now, I had been, toggling, between, getting a publicist or either getting an assistant or getting, someone to help me build. Right. And I knew that I knew deep down inside, I was going to pour a lot of energy into the second half of 2021, especially because my season 2, typically I'd like to go 15 episodes and I ended up short in season 2. I ended up with 10 episodes. Yeah. So I was going to take a break, and I did take one instead of 2 months, I took 1 month. Right. And what was interesting was it was completely the way you approached me with the email. And I knew that you had actually, gone and researched the 8 Billion, project and some of it, and listened to some of its podcasts, and you took some messaging from it. And what you emailed was exactly the type of email I was looking for, either myself to put out to get, to get on other podcasts, or of course, to get on other podcasts, and of course to bring in guests.
Right.
And then I told you, I said, did you know that there's a certain style that you use? Because I learned it. And then she's like, no, I didn't, she goes, I just genuinely wrote the email. And I knew you had great communication style. you represented Lady J well, especially in our meet and greet. And I was just like, I knew that I needed to get to know you better, because I knew that I felt like I found my publicist and representative for 8 billion.
Yeah. And look, one of the very first things you said to me when we first started talking, I forget how I worded it, but you're like, Keri, nothing happens by accident. So, because I think we were just kind of like marveling at how all of it was starting to unfold, and because it was pretty obvious it was divine, right? I mean, just
Absolutely.
everything was happening and the timing. And so that made it, special in and of itself, that it was, happening that way. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And that's what I was saying. It was so, like, the timing was so perfect because, like I was saying, there's a lot that goes on in everyone's personal lives, right? And I was experiencing that. But then at the same time, there was a ramp up of all these guests that were coming on. And I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I think in June, I recorded about 20 podcasts.
You did, yeah.
I did, which is going to take me all the way to December. And that was amazing because, we got to know each other. I think we spoke almost every day.
Yeah, we did.
And then to solidify the relationship, I had you come down here to California to spend some time with me and my family and just, just get to know each other in person.
Right. So, yeah. No, I love it. And when you were saying you didn't know if you needed like a publicist or an assistant or whatever, I started to laugh and interrupt you a little bit ago. You kind of got all of it. Plus a therapist. Plus.
Keri is amazing in every way, you guys. I mean, if you are really looking for someone to represent you on all different facets, whether it's business, public relations, publicist, Keri is the person. I mean, like sometimes, I mean, I know I probably shouldn't say this live, but I'm like, Keri, how do I do this? And you've been helping me set up systems and all this kind of stuff. You've just been completely heaven sent. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for believing in the mission.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I totally got it right out of the gate. So it was not a hard decision for me. And what I love is because I used to joke that my career path was just like a zigzag, right? And that's why I know a little about a lot, because I've had so many varied experiences in my career. And I always felt like that would serve me well. I just didn't know, what that looked like. And so to have all of this come together and be in a situation where I can provide the things that you need as support, not just being a publicist, but being that executive assistant or admin or, whatever it is it takes to kind of get things done. I love how both for you, now some of my other clients, I think I have 4 clients right now. And that's what I was going to share too. So that people understand it truly was an accident. Like I push back every once in a while. I'm like, no, I really didn't set out to do this. So, maybe I need to go get another job on the side or whatever, because it was a big deal, taking that leap of faith financially and not having, anyone to fall back on, and to just, be like, okay, I'm gonna let the universe, guide me wherever it's going to guide me. And so to do that and then be like, okay, no, I'm going to go get a job. And then the universe is like, no, here are 2 more clients. You need to keep doing this. So, and that's just kind of how it keeps happening. Every single person has come to me. I have not sought out a single client at all. Yeah. So
it's very much like the calling.
Right.
It gets so loud and you can ignore it.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I mean? It will always take you back to what you need to do.
Yeah.
And then
absolutely.
Once you say yes, there's not a part of your soul that won't, that can live without doing it. That's what I was saying. Like I would do it even if it's, you know what I'm saying? It is free.
Right.
It is free because it's the messaging that I'm putting out.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. And you and I were talking about this a little bit ago, and just kind of our spiritual journeys and how they started. And so this, like what's happening for me and with me now, and working with you takes me back to, 2018, which is when I really kind of started to explore, my spirituality and manifestation. I mean, that kind of came on the radar for me, but I was going through a really rough time. I'd had a couple of health scares. One was a breast cancer scare, which ended up not being malignant. And then the other was borderline diabetic at that point, which I thought was just crazy. But I was overweight. I was carrying extra weight. I was approaching, late 40s, and just had a lot of stuff happening. And so I kind of turned to, not kind of, I did turn to starting to read books, that would help guide me from a spiritual perspective and how to just really embrace it more and learn more about myself. And I remember one night, I remember looking in the mirror, and I mean, because during this time, it was rough. Like, I was going to my doctor. I'm like, why can't I lose weight? Like, why this? Why that? And I would cry in the doctor's office and just couldn't figure it out. And just finally thought, okay, I'm just going to grab the proverbial bull by the horns and figure this out. So I hired a personal trainer, started working out, started doing a lot of audiobooks, to help guide me through spirituality and what I needed to do to kind of change my perspective. And I remember standing in front of the mirror one night in my bathroom getting ready for bed. And I was just I looked in the mirror and I'm like, I see you in there. I see you. And somehow I'm going to get you out of there, but I see you. Because what I was looking at externally, I knew wasn't me, right? I just knew the person I was meant to be in that moment. And that's really kind of where my journey started, and started with, angel numbers and noticing that. And then it started with, being grateful every day for the little things, like the green lights all the way to work, or the parking space for a meeting when you're running behind. And so I learned, just even through gratitude, that basically it's that whole premise of what you put out, you get back, right? So when you're grateful and you show that gratitude in a genuine, sincere way every day, more of that happens for you. And then you start to notice it and realize it's not an accident that you hit every green light. It's not an accident that you got that parking spot when you were running behind, or maybe you were running behind, but then you realize there was a really bad accident, that you could have been part of. I mean, that's when I started to just really notice all of those things in my life happening.
The synchronicities of the universe.
Yeah, and then just kept building on it. It's okay, I'm going to do more of that. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. No. And, I just want to let the audience know, as, I've been very open about this on the podcast, that it has a very, the mission of it is very spiritual.
Yeah.
However, because it, it is 8 billion is inclusive. It's 8 billion stories because there's 8 billion people. Well, by 2023, of course, right?
Right.
Human population here on this planet. And when I first set out to do it, it was just I just want to inspire, I told people I didn't even know what I said yes to. And then first it was live streaming, which circle back to this today, right?
Right.
Then it became podcasting. And then I was just I just want to share stories. I want to inspire people and encourage them, because everyone has a story, and everyone's story sometimes is not pretty and sometimes it's painful, but these are the stories that everyone needs to hear, so then they can be inspired. They can also understand that they're not alone, that they can find synchronicities, that they can, they can relate to all these people.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was saying. I said, I just want to tell the stories. I just want to share them.
Yeah.
And as you still keep evolving spiritually, everything just starts unfolding. And it became even more clear to me, what the mission and vision of 8 billion is. Yeah. And so that's why it was really important for me that I got someone that, would help me represent this in such a way while I went after the other things, right? So Keri was a great counterpart to that. And when I first met, I said, Keri, just bear with me, because sometimes some of these stories might get a little weird. So Keri, oh my God, in 2 months, I don't know, Keri, I don't know how many miracles you witnessed. I would come
It's
home.
been a lot. No, I was going to say that. I mean, both from the time that we started talking, right, and we did a lot of Zoom like this. This is how we first met. Really, it was really doing Zooms, which was amazing in and of itself. But then to be with each other in California for 6 days, and even then, the transitions that we were both kind of going through and have been going through together has been pretty amazing. And to be working, it doesn't feel like work, but to be working with someone that you share that kind of connection with and understanding with is pretty spectacular. Because it's different for people, right? If they haven't fully embraced and understand the growth that we're all supposed to have, right? To develop spiritually and what that means. And so people are at varying degrees of that. So to work with someone, where we're kind of like right there. There are some things, that you know more about than I do. And I think there maybe probably by virtue of me being older than you two, there's some things that I've experienced a little more too. But just to know that we're on this journey together and able to share it is amazing. And I was going to ask you, because I was just curious, I don't think I've ever asked you this. So what's been your most surprising moment on 8 billion? I'm curious. That just popped into my head a little bit ago. I'm like, I have to ask that question.
No, and I was just doing a podcast recording this morning with John Slayton of Slayton Construction. And when I first had my meet and greet with him, there was what I don't really, when I talk about certain miracles and things that happen, right? As I interview a lot of guests that I get on, what's interesting is, even if I didn't know, I didn't know they had a spiritual base, I wouldn't know what their religious preference was, if they even had one.
Right.
They would be very deeply spiritually connected. And so their work and career just became the first half of the podcast. Then it would go into that. And it was just being so connected in so many ways. Or there'd just be, from so many different podcasts, I would find things out. I think up until season 2, I cried a few times, but I think I cried very many times in season 3 because the stories were just so heartwarming, and I couldn't stop. Right. They just really tugged at me, and you'd see me, I'd have tears streaming down my face because I was just truly connecting with the people. And I really need that, I really wanted to know that once I started that recording, I was truly connecting with them as a human being, as a soul, and it became part of my healing journey. And that's why when we got into talks, I said, Keri, even in just the negotiations and all this kind of stuff, I said, believe me, I said, if you hang on for this, you will get so much value.
Yeah.
Even in your, just spiritually, and how you'll grow as a soul.
Oh yeah. And that's already started to happen. I mean, it truly has. And I just wanted to comment on what you said as far as being connected. And when you're talking to people, I mean, I've seen you record, right? My client, Joshua, who, as not luck, but divinely worked out that we were all in California at the same time. And so I was able to witness you recording his podcast. And you're great at it, because you are truly, I mean, what people see, I'm telling you all what you see with her, right here, this is what you get, on and off the podcast. She's one of the most genuine, sincere people I think I've ever met. And that comes across when you're interviewing people.
And I think too, and I have to admit this, because I feel like the gifts that I have on camera and interviewing, I could never even in 3 years imagine that. You know what I mean? I was great with building rapport with people, and I'd ask them questions. But sometimes when I'll look back at some of my podcasts, I will, I have no questions written. I'm just genuinely connecting with them in conversation. And it's amazing what I'm able to pull out from those questions.
Yeah.
And then I'll look back and I was like, wow, I did that, or I recorded me.
Was that me?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I love it, because what I also witnessed, I know when you were interviewing Joshua, there were a couple things in his bio where you're like, oh, I really hope he talks about this, or I really hope, and then he gave you the perfect opening, right? For the question.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love that.
Stay tuned for that one, guys. So if you watch this, Joshua, Joshua is going to be my 15th episode for season 3, but you guys won't see it most of the time because I'm facing him. But I actually, there was something that happened. I had an accident in the dog park, and you will see because I had some things on my face, like bruising on my lips and cuts for about 2 weeks. Yeah. So there's, I think, maybe a total of 2 podcasts where it's showing, and I'm
see it.
Like, at first, I was always trying to hide it, but then I was just like, you know what? What are you gonna hide? This is it. There's a story behind it.
Right.
I took care of my sister's dog for 5 weeks, and he just snapped and did something in the dog park. I was running after him. So that's what I'm saying. So going back to what you were asking about what were complete surprises, like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I couldn't just, in like 40 episodes, I couldn't just tell you, 40 to 50 now, I couldn't just, there's something special about each one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You made some amazing connections with people, for sure. I've enjoyed hearing those stories and look forward to, watching it unfold myself as we go. But it's been pretty miraculous. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we just wanted to share, with the audience that's watching live right now.
Yes.
Do we have any questions, everyone? No.
No.
Watching live. But, I did want to share this on my YouTube channel and everyone get to know you. So if they have questions, they can always contact Miss Keri Brantley. And then also to let you guys know why we decided to go on live streaming platform. Not only did I have a history in doing this, and I love this. I actually really do.
Yeah.
There is
something natural. So yeah.
There's something so different about live streaming because you can't mess up, and if you mess up, everyone sees.
And that's life, right? I mean, no one's perfect in life, and nor should we expect to be. So that's the beauty of it too. It's real, right? In a world where there's a lot of fakeness going on and filters and all kinds of crazy stuff. That's the beauty of live streaming is you get us exactly how we are, and we may make a blunder. You may make a blunder. Your guests may, but that's life, right?
I know. I'm thinking. I was like, can I cuss on here? And I was just like, but yes. So just to elaborate and expand on it, Keri and I thought it would be great to actually bring the whole live streaming thing. I mean, what's the live streaming platform over to Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram in the event, because like I was saying, most of the podcasts are pre-recorded. And sometimes by the time it's released, it was probably recorded 3-4 months. The way that I'm looking at it now at the rate it's going.
Right.
It will have, so what I will do is, depending on each guest, I will release the podcast, and then I may bring them on for a question and answer session where, they can, it'll be more relevant, to time. And they can ask those questions, or in an off event that we cannot put them on a podcast. And what did you say? Timing of message, right?
Yeah, like the timeliness of it. So if there's something happening in the world, right, and you've got a guest that it just makes a lot of sense to have them on just in that moment because of what's going on in the world or in our country or whatever the case may be, it's beautiful to have this platform where you can do that and not have to wait and not have to, record and then push it out. You can just go with it. And I think that's, very powerful too, from a communication perspective, to be able to kind of be on demand, when you need to be. So
the world is live and in real time, baby.
Yep, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it was truly a divine gift from the universe that I started off on that type of platform, or this type of platform, I should say. And now I'm going to continue it. But of course, 8 billion podcasts being the main part of the project first. And then, of course, doing these live streams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it.
So is there anything, Keri, that we need to cover? I think, I'm glad that people got to know you. Of course, they can always contact Keri at Keri&etc.com. And she's on all different platforms of Facebook, Instagram. So feel free to contact her there if you're in need of her services. One thing that I did want to say, and I probably will go back to edit maybe just the description of this. Today, I believe that they started blasting out a GoFundMe account. So Keri, you're going to have to bear with me just for a few minutes while I explain this. So in season 1, I actually interviewed Kevin Call of Catch 21 from Skid Row. And Kevin had been a former Skid Row resident and an inmate. And then after he was released from prison, he decided to go back to Skid Row, but this time now as a different role. So what he has done is he's given his life of service to serving the homeless. Yes. And when I met Kevin, I met him at a restaurant he was serving. So he also serves as a second job, but then he also goes back to the streets of Skid Row to give back. And that's where I started my volunteering with the Skid Row residents. Mm-hmm. So all of last year, I attended some events. I got to know the community, and the restaurant in which he serves at in Skid Row, actually the owner allows for them to use the parking lot. So when all these community organizations, leaders, anyone that wants to give donations wants a safe space to be able to distribute any of their, anything that they have, like food, clothing, and hygiene products, they use that parking lot.
That's awesome.
So what we've done is we've started a GoFundMe account for Catch 21 Skid Row. And what it's going to do is help provide some funding for the events, taking us all the way to the end of this year. And this seems to be the season when everything kicks off because, of course, shortly after the summer, we're going to go into the holidays.
Right.
So please, everyone, if I'm not able to, edit the description and I can't put the GoFundMe link in there, you can find the GoFundMe link under at Catch 21 Skid Row on Instagram. I think he's put his link in the bio, or you could go to at 8 Billion Project. That's all spelled out. And in my link tree, I've also added the link to the GoFundMe account. So of course,
that's great. And is it on Facebook as well? Is it being shared on Facebook too?
I believe I shared it. Yeah, I shared it on Facebook.
I'll watch for it and share it as well. And for folks too, if you can share it, and help us get it out there. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say. If at this time you're not inclined to give, please give with your good spirits and your good energy, of course. Or if you'd ever like to come out and volunteer, it really does change your life when you actually are coming from a space of just giving. Wow. So they very much appreciate it. They appreciate the love. That's really what they need the most, right?
Yeah. Everyone needs to be seen, right? And know that they're loved. So
yes. Yeah. And just to make sure, because we're always doing it, I just want to let everyone know the different platforms that 8 Billion Project is on. So on Facebook, 8 Billion Project has its own page. Mm-hmm. So please go ahead and search that. You can go ahead and like that page. And then I upload all the interviews, the best timestamp moments, and then they end up on YouTube. On Instagram, it's also 8 Billion Project. I'm also on Instagram as Lisa Florida. So I toggle, I promote heavily on both pages. And then, of course, if you guys are here on YouTube, one of the biggest things that we're looking to do is build this channel. So if you could please like, share, and subscribe to Lisa Florida, support the mission, because this mission is truly all about you guys, the messaging, where it's taking us into the future, anything and everything we could talk about. So, and then, of course, if you are ever inclined to either nominate someone or would like to share your story, please contact 8billionproject@gmail.com, where Keri and I both manage that email, and we'd love to hear your story.
Yes, absolutely. We have lots of them to tell. So
I know. Yes, we have 8 billion.
We have 8 billion of them. That's right.
We have 8 billion kinds of different variations of
yes.
Yes. Right.
I love it.
But yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in live.
Yes.
Or who tuned in after. And I just want to thank you, the lovely Miss Keri Brantley, for sharing your background, for sharing your spirit, for sharing the love, and for going on this mission with me.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to go on this mission.
This is going to be quite quite an adventure of a lifetime.
Yes, it is. Agreed. It already is. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yes.
All right, guys. So thank you for, obviously, no one tuned in live, but thank you for those who watched the replay of this. I truly appreciate it. I hope this, I hope that this video or this live stream will have, been able to explain the expansion of 8 billion. So,
yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.